Could fracking wells be responsible for a recent rash of earthquakes? Well, a recent study published in an issue of Science, Science magazine, suggests there's a direct link between the abundance of fracking wastewater injection wells and seismic activity in states like Oklahoma, where there's been a large growth in the number of these wells. Now, this study, I believe it was a peer-reviewed study that was co-authored by Cornell University geophysics professor and research seismologist Katie Kiranen. She studied the data regarding these swarms of earthquakes near the small town of Jones, Oklahoma. Jones, Oklahoma is a place that has become one of the most earthquake-prone parts of the state. Now, they chose Oklahoma because before 2008, Oklahoma averaged only about 3.0 magnitude earthquake every year. Compared to 2014, Oklahoma had over 230 of those seismic events. That's pretty amazing. Another one of the study's co-authors, Jeffrey Abers, told Nature magazine that it is really unprecedented to have this many earthquakes over a broad region like this. Yep. They decided to study this using a unique methodology. Now, what they did is that they fed data regarding earthquake information and disposal well locations, the times, the pressures, and the wastewater volume measurements into a computer model. It was a 3D computer model of the underground areas of where they were measuring. So they would actually get a 3D model of the actual area. Kind of fascinating. Now, what they found is that a small number of wastewater injection sites could be responsible for the large increases in seismic activities across the state. Now, according to Raw Story, quote, researchers believe that the earthquakes are caused by overpressuring a fault system, which is basically to say they injected too much wastewater into the ground, and that will cause tectonically stable areas to slip. It results not only in a single earthquake, but a redistribution of pressures along an entire fault system. This is what Abers and his team believe is happening in Oklahoma. Now, also, this research shows that wastewater travels a lot further away underground from a disposal site than they previously had thought. So there you go. And one more thing. To those that are saying that if we banned wastewater injection right away and fracking in general, that those earthquakes would go away, right? Not so much. Kiranen states that it would take likely years for this fluid pressure that's already there to diffuse away. So you'd pretty much see earthquakes continuing. So with all of that information out there, I want to go to my panel. Let's go to you, Becca, first, since you are an Oklahoma native.
I am, and there were actually a few things about this story that I thought were particularly striking, because I think as a population, people often look at Oklahomans as being sort of behind, and in fact often act as if like, oh, well, they're okay with this. Like, they aren't environmentally concerned. They aren't going to be interested in these kinds of issues. Just to speak sort of broadly of the stereotypes of the state. But in fact, one of the stories referenced a June 26th meeting that was actually held in the church that I grew up in, where hundreds of citizens were coming out and saying, we're not okay with this. We see that other states have done things to stop this or to pause it while these important studies are being completed. And we don't approve of the amount of power being given to these corporations in our state. So there is a real citizens pushback against this. The power that those corporations do have in the state, though, is pretty exceptional. A couple of things that really make this particularly concerning, aside from just the huge increase and the fact that Oklahoma hasn't passed the measures other states have, also 80% of the state of Oklahoma is within at least 9 miles or less of at least one of the 4,000 wells. Now, they did say that for this particular study, we're looking at high-volume wastewater injection wells. So that would limit some of the impact, but it's a huge, widespread problem still. It's very troubling to me, at least. I won't say I don't understand that would indicate greater naivete than I actually possess. But it's incredibly frustrating to me that things are being halted on the justification of, oh, that might hurt my religious beliefs, and we can't pause for a few seconds to say, is this actually tearing the physical land of our country apart?
Right, and I think that's a really good way to look at it. Sean, why don't you weigh in on this?
Well, I mean, nobody looks at the bright side when they see these stories. 230 earthquakes a year. You could be the earthquake state. Like that's a sign of improvement.
That's like the worst.
We already have the tornado state, and we're just fine with that.
Yeah, you guys could be the Roland Emmerich state, because he's like the master of all disaster films. But obviously this is a disaster. And the thing about this study is it's not like these are a bunch of like crazy people who hate like hydraulic fracturing. They're saying that specific wells that use high volume injection are causing this. They're not saying get rid of all fracking or anything like that. They're like, just stop injecting so much water into the ground. And like, I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about like how these work except for like the basics. And the basics are you inject water in to cause mini earthquakes. So it's not that much of a stretch that if you inject too much water in the wrong place, that you're going to create a situation where there's a lot more earthquakes. So it sounds logical. It's not like it might take years to fix, but it's not like it's that hard of a problem to identify. They focused on very specific rigs in it, so you know which ones to limit or stop. I think that Oklahomans should do something about this. But the reasons that they probably won't is because natural gas is such a boom in that state. And it's a lot of jobs and campaign contributions and energy. Just a whole bunch of reasons.
Right. I was actually going to mention some of those reasons, but yeah, you got it right. I mean, it's Oklahoma's a natural gas state, and they've been having similar issues in places like Texas and I believe it was Pennsylvania, everywhere that they've been setting up these new types of fracking rates. And it's not some of the conservative talking points that are like, oh no, fracking, that's fine, fracking's safe, whatever. We've been doing it safely for 60 years. Yeah, but we've actually developed some new ways of doing it, which have been able to have us access some of a lot of this natural gas. That's why we're having a boom with new technologies. Well, with these new technologies comes new dangers, but nobody considered that. We're just like, I don't know, drill, baby, drill. Let's get in there. Let's get that natural gas. This is the problem with people, is that we don't have a foresight. We don't have a foresight when we start to do things like this. We just think about, how's it going to benefit us now? We don't care about later. Well, this is what happens when you do that. Because now the later is showing that, look, we've got all sorts of little mini earthquakes happening, and it's only going to get worse. Good job. And nobody's going to do anything about it. It's sad to say that no matter how many protests are against it, and people who are, getting together at churches to have these town halls and getting pissed and wanting to shut down fracking and everything like that, their voices are never going to get heard, because money rules our democracy. It is an oligarchy now, and that is the problem. These corporations are not going to stop fracking. They're not going to release, they're not going to release the proprietary mixes of chemicals, what's in them, so that we know. No, they're not going to do anything like that, and they're always going to deny any damages. What? It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It's not the fracking.
Jeff, it's not just like the corporate power and all that. Like, if
you're right. It's not just the corporate power. It is the jobs. It is the politicians. It's all of that. You're right.
It's not only that. If you're one of those people who they found natural gas under their house, like, we're one of the most unique countries in the world where if they find resources under your house, those resources are yours. So like, it's also people getting royalty checks. It's like there's a whole bunch of like constituencies that would be in favor of more fracking, even if it causes a little bit of earthquakes.
Well, if you can remember, Josh Fox was one of those people that they had found natural gas under his house. He was the filmmaker of Gasland and Gasland 2. And so that's what started the whole documentary, is they said, hey, we're going to go purchase your land so we can drill on it, so we can frack on it.
Technically,
And
they weren't buying his land. They just were drilling for the gas that was under his property because, according to American property rights, that's your gas. But
Right.
it's not. They weren't going to tear down his house.
Well, no, but they were going to pay him a substantial amount of money, and so, Anyway, back to you. Do you have anything to throw in?
Yeah, I guess one more thing that I think is really interesting here is the current study is specifically looking at the wastewater injection. So it's not even the original fracking. It's what we're doing to get rid of that water. That said, Oklahoma, the entire time I was growing up there, was essentially a drought state. It was accepted that we would go into drought from about May until about August. Now, I lived in central Oklahoma, not in the eastern part of the state that's a little less miserably dry all the time. One of the options for what to do with that wastewater is to set up irrigation. Now, most resources on it are suggesting that it's a pretty expensive system to set up, fairly expensive to maintain, but usually you get to innovations that make technology more affordable by using it. And a system that uses this wastewater for irrigation in a state that's prone to droughts anyway, and in a state that really can't afford a 22,000+% increase in earthquakes, if there is a place on Earth that could, I think that irrigation option would be worth looking into from the government's perspective. Then they get to keep their contracts and maybe create some new.
I don't see that happening. I just see them doing the cheapest option and throwing it in, putting it back in the ground or putting it in these pits that will sit there and pollute the area. I just don't. There's not a lot of good options here.
Well, and there are areas that have used the irrigation option. It's something that's been looked into. It's just, you're right. Absolutely, the problem is it's expensive to clean it. But the way to force companies to do that would be better regulation, would be the citizens, instead of just the town hall meetings, make it matter. Stop voting on the social issues that aren't going to hurt anybody. That's the reason you keep electing these people that are in big business's pocket. And instead, vote for the people who are going to say, no, you can't do that just because you also won't let Fred and Sam get married. They're voting against their own interests because of these social issues.